Hello, I'm Mike Gordon, and for our final weekend rental, I will be doing a perfect playthrough of Joe Montana Football, which is basically the same conditions as John Madden Football, which is to win playoff mode. And speaking of which, there's quite a bit of trivia surrounding this comparison as well. The game was supposed to come out ahead of the 1990 holiday season, including some recorded gameplay footage that was intended for the Just As Does adverts at the time. However, as the Christmas deadline approached, Sega was horrified about how the original developers for the game barely got any work done for it. So, as a last-ditch effort, they tagged Park Place Studios, the studio that developed John Madden Football for EA, to develop Joe Montana on the Madden engine. Obviously, Park Place Productions weren't gonna upstage their own flagship Madden release, so they purposefully made changes to the game that would make Joe Montana inferior to John Madden, most of which is easy to spot at a glance, but the question is it any good? Well, let's find out.
Welcome to Joe Montana Football.
And there is the voice sample of Joe Montana itself. Actually pretty good, all things considered. Good trivia, Joe Montana is the only player that appears anywhere in Joe Montana Football. So perfect playthrough conditions, beat the Sega Bowl. Just to take game time to 10 minutes, and penalties are off, and Team 1 will be San Francisco. A top-notch team, so you want to take on my teammates and beat. Well, you will have to throw the ball deep to beat us and shut me down in the fourth quarter. Cincinnati, good team. This team can be beat with crisp short passes and runs up the middle on offense. The quarterback is a real fighter. He gets good protection, and his running backs are quick and powerful. Okay, quick plug since I glossed over the menu just now. Probably the one thing that I consider a real improvement over John Madden Football is the menuing. Not only is it a pretty slick design compared to John Madden Football, but Joe Montana actually functions properly without the buggy double inputs, making navigation of these menus way easier and engaging. So with that said, let's take a look at everything the game has to offer.
Welcome to Joe Montana Football.
For starters, gameplay here literally mirrors what you saw in John Madden Football with Sega Bowl, normal, and 2-minute drill, basically mirroring the modes of the original game. Game time extends anywhere from 10 to 16 minutes. And we have San Fran, Tampa, Denver, Cleveland, Detroit, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Houston, Kansas City, Washington, Chicago, Miami, Buffalo, Los Angeles, and finally New York. 16 teams in total, no all-Madden team though, but that's okay, and they're not based on the actual NFL teams at the time. And of course, you can turn penalties on or off. Now, like all that covered, let's resume our perfect playthrough. Okay, starting off, we do have coin flips, so we have no influence over how they turn out. Luckily, we begin with the kick return, so we get to the ball first. And of course, I always go for the shortest plays, and I'm just gonna follow Joe Montana's suggestions on play calls. Not here, where instead I managed to throw it down deep to first and goal already. Spoiler, passing plays in Joe Montana Football are pretty overpowered. Now, I will say, though, that obviously you can see one of the few downgrades visually, as the 3D component is completely stripped bare from John Madden Football. It isn't featured anywhere in Joe Montana Football. An argument could be made too that the character models are also inferior. Though to this game's benefit, we at least get this neat little jingle. So what I'm going to do is run down the clock as low as humanly possible before snapping the ball off, because I want to give the opponent as few opportunities as possible to drive down the length of the field. So because I chose 10-minute games, we will only have 2.5-minute quarters. Just like that, the score is nothing, but we had the whole ball the entire time. Anyways, I'm still following Joe Montana's recommendations. And Joe Montana actually kept it for us this time, as we were able to punch it in rather effortlessly. And of course, the PAT is good. San Francisco leads 7-0. Oh yeah, none of the teams even remotely resemble their real-world NFL counterparts here. This is another downgrade. None of the players are recognizable by name or number, apart from Joe Montana of San Francisco, which was the reason why I chose to play as San Francisco. But it does mean you have literally no idea who any of the players are, or who any of the players are supposed to be. Am I throwing to Jerry Rice? Am I handing it off to Roger Craig? I don't know, because they're not in the game. Their numbers aren't represented. The same goes with Cincinnati. Am I up against what's I don't even remember, Collinsworth? Or is this supposed to be just some super generic receiver? And without the instruction manuals, I have no idea if I'm even what the team's strengths and weaknesses are. I think the biggest difference between this game and John Madden Football, from a gameplay standpoint, is the overly mechanical controls that are difficult to get a handle on. I mean, well, I will give the game this: if you make a running play, the quarterback will hand it off to the running back automatically. But when you drop down a pass, you literally have to press a button to manually pull up the passing windows. You have to manually shift through your different targets before making your pass. Kind of similar to Tecmo's Super Bowl. And oh yeah, the button combination's not the same as Tecmo's Super Bowl or John Madden Football. Even menuing in through the playbooks is very wonky compared to John Madden. Alright, we're up 14-0, so I'm just going to kick us off in forced overtime. At this point, it doesn't really matter what our defensive plan is, so long as we keep them out of the end zone. That's all that matters. We're up 2 scores with no 2-point conversion implemented yet. And it's halftime. And of course, none of the teams are represented by their colors. A few of them might have one color in common, but by and large, they look nothing like their NFL counterparts. Like even San Francisco is a red uniform with brown helmets. With brown gold helmets, and John Madden Football still replicates this. John Madden Football also still maintains the original numbers. Joe Montana doesn't, as I said. The game is still playable, but it's still pretty decent. Oh yeah, another thing. There's no spinning. There's no dodging. You either shift between your different passing targets. Or nothing. You can't stiff arm, you can't spin, you can't dive. You have the ball, the only option you have is to just keep on running up. I don't even think you get any semblance on what any of the buttons do when you're out on the field. And of course, it generally feels like you're just bumping into the players, not making instead of actually making tackles. I really have no idea how that works. And of course, oh yeah, we're at the fourth quarter. So we just have to make a goal line stand against Cincinnati. This sort of reminds me of Super Bowl 16 with a similar scenario between the Bengals and the Niners. And Super Bowl 16, which was 1981, their first trips to the Super Bowl. So right now I'm stuffing them up pretty good. It's third down and long. Heading into the 2-minute warning, and they quickly got that ball off just as the 2-minute warning expired, but we picked them off in the end zone for a touchback. And it's 2-minute warning too. Also, at this point, I'm just gonna run out the clock so we can move on to the next game. Yeah, I chose the lowest time limits possible so I can actually finish the perfect playthrough in under an hour. I think anything over an hour is a bit excessive. Alright, since it has just one timeout remaining, that's fine. So long as I can get the first down, and just got it. They just used up their final timeout, and it doesn't matter because we can just run out the clock. We're just running the ball some. There's no kneel downs. There's no victory formations in John Madden or Joe Montana. At least not yet. Not sure why they weren't implemented yet, because you could still fumble the ball. And that could go south real quick, but whatever. I almost thought I could potentially make it the entire length of the field, but I don't care. We're going to run out the clock, and we have beaten our first opponent in Joe Montana Football. And a perfect play through this game.
Great game.
Now, of course, Joe Montana will end with great game whenever you win a game with Joe Montana as your quarterback. San Francisco, alright, we already saw that. That's Joe's game plan. I'm not sure if you get Joe's game plan without him. Washington's strong team. You can take advantage of their swarming defense by calling misdirection, play action plays. The trio of receivers is the best in the league to get to the quarterback early. So get to the quarterback early. And from here on out, we will be kicking off to instead of receiving to start the game, which I do think is much better, all things considered, since you could end the half with possession of the ball and put points on the board, and then start the next half with the ball yourself. So really, I'm just trying to zone this team out so we could take care of the run and cover the pass all at the same time. The downside is it's not an especially aggressive play call. but it covers a lot of your outs, so to speak. Especially since we have to worry about this team's receivers. Alright, it's now 4th and long, so they're going to punt it to us. Alright, this is... Now, remember when I said I believe the quarterback voice in John Madden Football was Phil Simms? Even though he was still playing in the NFL at that time. Okay, technically he was on IR, but he was still in the league at the time. Well, Joe Montana does all the quarterback voices in this game as well. Some would say that the music and the sound overall is inferior as well to John Madden Football. I think that remains to be seen. And this sort of playbook menu is pretty ugly as well, but I honestly don't mind. So he ran out the clock in the first quarter. Now let's try punching it in the second. And we just made the first down. Honestly, I preferred that one. Allows us to run out the clock way faster. I'm gonna do what I like to do in John Madden Football and get the ball off just as we are entering into mid-warning, and of course... Okay, I decided to backpedal so we don't punch it. What a shock. So we're just gonna run it? Okay, we took a loss of yards, but that's fine. Because again, we're trying to round out the clock. And since it's nothing, Washington doesn't see any need to use a timeout, even though we're deep in their territory. And they might want an opportunity to put points on the board before the halftime. But no, they see the score is nothing, and thus they have no need to do it. Yeah, the AI back in the day is very easy to exploit. And of course we don't cash it in, so it's 4th down. Might as well just kick the field goal. We do get the ball to start the second half, so we'll have to put actual substantial points on the board in the second half. Goes up, and it's good. We lead 3-0. And we get the ball back to start the half. That's literally my play call in this game, so we don't have to deal with the AI. So yeah, the game is definitely an inferior copy of John Madden Football. I don't know if I could classify it as a shittier version of John Madden Football. If this is the shitty John Madden Football, then a shitty John Madden Football is still pretty good. Not terrific, but still pretty good. It has its charms, has its appeal. It's just, it was deliberately made to be an inferior product, but I'm guessing the people at Park Place Productions had at least enough integrity to try to make a quality game. They just didn't want this game to be better than John Madden Football. They just sabotage in certain areas to make it seem less appealing, but not terrible. Ultimately, the end result of this is that Sega, after this game, would instead hire a different studio to develop the sequel game, Joe Montana 2 Sports Talk Football. And indeed, the entire... Wait. Wow, we actually made it to the end zone, despite all that. Holy cow. Anyways, that's what and we just have 2.5 minutes after this play. Maybe the next play as well. Come on, make the tackle. Wow, they almost punched that in. They almost returned that kick to the end zone. Anyways, as I was saying, it was abundantly clear after the development of this game wrapped up, Sega would actually find another studio called Blue Sky Software, not to be confused with Blue Sky Studios, the film studio behind the Ice Age films, or the Twitter wannabe social media platform that's basically a Twitter wannabe. So yeah, 2-minute warning has passed. And I'm just gonna try to make another goal line stand since we're only leading 10-0. Right side for the Redskins is they would probably realize, okay, we still have a shot at this game if we don't punch it in, but not really. As long as we force them to burn through their timeouts, they won't be able to get the ball back after this. I don't even know if it's possible to do an onside kick. I forgot how you do kick and punt specifically. It's not the same thing as John Madden Football. It's more like you have to steer the ball in the direction you want to kick. And I think you even need to hold it down in order to power it up. Power up your kicks. Again, with absolutely no marker letting you know how far or what direction you're kicking. So, when I emphasize how I consider Joe Montana Football to be designed specifically to be an inferior version of John Madden Football, yeah, they basically found a way in every way outside of the options menu. The options menu is the only serious upgrade over John Madden. Now, when this game release is sort of up in the air. Depending on your sources, this either came out just in time for the holiday season in 1990, like just around Christmas, or it came out in the very early in 91. And by early, I mean like January or February of 91. Making it arguably the first game released on the Genesis that year. But Joe Montana 2 onwards, all the Joe Montana games from Joe Montana 2 onwards would be developed by Blue Sky Software at Sega's behest. Alright, we already have the San Francisco, New York, a top-notch team. Defense is the core of this team. Your linebackers are relentless, but you can win with short passes. The quarterback is a consistent winner, and their halfback is a real workhorse. At least they acknowledge that New York is one of the best teams in football that year. And they won the Super Bowl. Yeah, they weren't as good as Buffalo or San Fran, right? They got demolished by San Fran and Buffalo during the regular season. But they were able to parlay those blowout losses, which also resulted in the loss of their quarterback, Phil Simms, to the season, into a dominant defensive run through the Super Bowl. Well, I say dominant. Not really. They won in clutch performances against the two best teams in football that year. San Fran was aiming for a three-peat with one of the best rosters they ever assembled. And Buffalo was looking at winning their first Super Bowl ever in franchise history with the best team they ever assembled. You know, credit is due for Bill Belichick's game plan. He was the defensive coordinator at the time. And man, was that a portent for things to come. Even I tried with the passing, but I think someone deflected it. And yeah, I think it also... Whatever, I'm just gonna try to navigate my way through. Oh, I'll just let the time run out. Yeah, this is a pretty nifty jingle. And spoiler alerts, the score will always remain 0-0 in all 4 games of the Sega Bowl. So yeah, in John Madden Football, perfect playthrough conditions would be to win playoff, to beat playoff. In this game, it's beat the Sega Bowl, win the Sega Bowl. And we already scored a touchdown, of course. Yeah, the late response to that, it's sort of turned pedantic at this time. And of course the Giants, New York, got the touchback. I'm not quite sure how you do that in the actual game though. Actually, I tried press every button in the end zone and it just didn't work. And there's a 2-minute warning. Because we're leading by 7, maybe New York will start using their timeouts. I doubt it. Actually, okay, I was right. They would use their timeouts here. So we just have to contain the Giants' offense. In the 1990 Giants were one of the best defensive units in all of football, but their offense left a lot to be desired, even before the Phil Simms injury. And yeah, I'm just gonna keep running out the clocks before I proceed to punch it in. I think they're not even bothering with the timeouts now that we have the ball. Of course, the ball just hovers in the air harmlessly. Ooh, we just made a first down. I'll try to run it in a few times before settling for a field goal. Oh, it looks like I just settled for a field goal anyways. Alright, same score as last time, 10-0, entering halftime. What's funny is that after scoring only 14 and 10 points respectively during my first 2 games, I basically just double up every single time from here. I basically win bigger and bigger in each and every game after that. Alright. Just Just listening to the jingle, waiting for the clock to wind down. I believe it's 40 frames per second at the first countdown. Not 30, not 60, 40. Oh. Yeah, let's go. Alright. I am definitely shaking. I definitely like this jingle. I may not like the menu here, but I do like the jingle. So it's just 10-0 so far, so I'm gonna try to put this game out of reach. I don't get the first down, but we'll take it to the 2-minute warning. Here, I'm just not gonna give the other team the chance to mount a comeback. So he somehow made it to the end zone again. Well, we were just trying to run out the clock too. Oh. Alright. We're up 17-0. There's absolutely no chance. Absolutely zero chance of us losing. Fortunately, he makes... oh, not quite yet. It's an incomplete pass. Now this time, San Francisco straight up clobbers the Giants on their way to the not Super Bowl, Sega Bowl. And we picked them off, and it's looking like, yes, it's a big 6. It's alright, we're up 24-0. That is the absolute dagger there. Alright. Yeah, I'm just gonna try to slow him down and run out the clock quite a bit. Alright, incomplete pass. They have no choice but to throw the ball. I might just let them catch it so we could run out the clock. Force them to use up all their timeouts as well. I mean, they can't beat us. Sure enough, it's a first down. 2 timeouts left. Surprised they didn't use them in the... oh yeah, they were either all incomplete passes or a pick 6. But even so, I think this is way faster. Just forcing them to burn through all their timeouts. And of course, they managed to find the end zone. But don't worry, this will be the last time we'll surrender any points to the opposition in this play. Oh. Alright, I think a single running play should suffice. Maybe 2 running plays, just to force them to use up their final timeout. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna run it and run it and run it some more. This should be the last play of the game. Don't really care to score again. Yeah, I think I'll agree with that. And now we have reached the Sega Bowl itself. Our opponent is Buffalo. We are a top-notch team that we need to stop Joe Montana. I don't know if he appears for any other team. He'll be able to pass deep on the cornerbacks, but watch out for their all-pro linebackers on the short ones. The quarterback has a cannon arm, and the receivers are always a threat for the long ball. So basically force them to run the ball on us. Which is the exact same game plan as Bill Belichick for Super Bowl 25. Our defense isn't that great. We are more of an offensive juggernaut than we are a defensive one. Defense was more or less New York's forte then. And just like a lot of these other teams, this team looks absolutely nothing like the Buffalo Bills. They actually look more like the Washington Redskins. Based on the color scheme alone. Which is a burgundy outfit. With white stripes on their helmets. Buffalo's outfits are, their jerseys are supposed to be blue with red helmets. For anyone living outside of North America, that Buffalo is blue with red helmets. We're just bringing the ball 2nd and 6. Just burning out a ton of clock. Just wait till 1 second left on the clock before we make a play. And that's a first down, and this should end the first quarter. Alright, nothing. Just like all the other games of this playthrough. Now, the reason why I'm doing 10-minute games instead of 15 or 20, it's really simple. The game could be twice as long with 5 minutes, which is the minimum time of John Madden Football, released earlier that same year. And what Joe Montana's engine is built off. Of course, we scored yet another touchdown shortly. I guess it's right on time for the 2-minute warning. Or shortly after it. Not sure which. Oh well, let's beat the piss out of these Bills. So it's 7-0 right now. All right. The way I see it, I would still rate John Madden Football as a better game than Joe Montana Football. I mean, John Madden Football has a glitchy options menu that makes it very a pain in the ass to navigate. but everything else in that game is absolute gold. Whereas Joe Montana actually has a slick-looking options menu that actually works properly. And can have time limits that go into 10-minute per game territory, which I think is very neat and efficient. But otherwise, yeah, everything here was designed specifically to be a downgrade from John Madden Football. And my least favorite, in spite the niche appeal behind it, is definitely Cyberball. I think. Also, I don't think it matters that much what I think. We're gonna win and win big soon. I'm gonna try punching in before the time expires. And just like that, we got ourselves another touchdown. With 9 seconds to spare. So yeah, top of the chain is John Madden Football, then Joe Montana Football, and then Cyberball. Last week, I would say my favorite game would have to be Revenge of Death Adder, then Virtua Fighter, then Sega Sonic the Hedgehog. The first weekend of Summer Sega, what were those games? My favorite out of that bunch is probably NHL PA 93. Then it's, what was that? Altered Beast, and then Golden Axe War for the arcade, then Golden Axe Warrior for the Master System. I actually still have quite a number of these weekend rentals on standby that still need to be edited and have voice recordings for. A few of them are even successful perfect playthroughs that I would like to cover. Oh. Here I am, just running out the clock. And we somehow punched it into the end zone. With 19 seconds left in the quarter left to spare, and it's 21-0. This game is just spiraling out of control from Buffalo. And yeah. Alright, and it's a fumble, which we recovered. And with 2 seconds left in the third quarter. Oh, well, we didn't dwell on that for too long. But it is 2nd and 14, so I literally took a 4-yard loss just to run out the clock. Don't worry, got the first down. And we're heading to 2-minute territory. And it's like that's 2-minute warning, and alright, 2 timeouts remaining. I'm just gonna try to burn through all their timeouts. as we whipped their asses, and man, we didn't go down right away. It's now 3rd and 8. I think we need to punch it in right now. Especially since Buffalo's burning through all their timeouts and there are no more. And we got the touchdown. 28-0. Within a 10-minute game. That is insane. And they managed to break every tackle to make their way to midfield. Wow. And they still have one time. I think they still have one timeout left. Okay, incomplete. Let's shut down. They still have one timeout remaining. That's an incompletion. Final timeout, I'm sure. Alright, and alright. We're about to wrap up this game, I'm sure. Oh, they decided to relinquish this game to us. Because they know they can't win, so let's hurry up and beat this game. So perfect playthrough number 109 is about to wrap up soon. So I hope you enjoyed this perfect playthrough and how we accomplished everything this game has to offer. We're about 30 seconds away from being world champions, and I think I'm gonna just run out the clock here as we listen to this jingle and watch the ending cutscenes. So, I hope you all enjoyed my perfect playthrough of Joe Montana Football, and I hope you're looking forward to what I have next in store here on Summer of Sega. Leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. We are San Francisco Stats. We've accomplished everything this game has to offer, and with that out of the way, this is Mike Gordon, sign out.